well, we'll go ahead and get started. Since we are already a little after the hour, I'd like to go ahead and call to order the, what are we on? The fourth budget session for our 2024 work session reviews, where we are receiving and discussing departmental budget requests. I will note for the record that we have Councilor Crossley, Councilor Iverson, Councilor Deckard, myself, Councilor McKim, and Councilor Hawk here in the Nat U Hill room. Councilor Munson is going to join us online, but is not here at present. So we will continue on with the adoption of the agenda. Does anyone wish to add or remove an item from tonight's budget work session agenda?
I'd like to note, and if someone could please note, the Health Department Fund 1161, it's included in the packet. It was left off the agenda. So
Okay.
if possible, could we add that?
It's number 8B.
And that's the new one?
That's the new fund, yes.
Could I get a motion to add that, I guess?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Could we have a roll call vote on amending the agenda to add item 8B, which is the Local Public Health Services Fund 1161?
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Crossley,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Thank you. Any other additions or deletions? Okay, seeing none, we will move forward with the amended agenda. Or do I need to, that's good, right? We voted and, okay, just making sure. Each night I entertain you with a little bit of background and introduction for the work sessions, because we know that not everybody is tuning in every single night. So I want to welcome you and remind everyone that this is not the final approval of our 2024 Monroe County annual budget, and nor is it the formal budget hearing. The public hearing is scheduled for October 3rd at 5:30 p.m. here in the Nat U Hill room, and the budget final adoption will occur on Tuesday, October 17th at 5:30 p.m. also here. The public can make comment regarding the budget during those meetings. Departments tonight will be invited to join us in order to present their budget. And as a reminder, departments have been given an allotted amount of time for their budget review. This is based on our times from last year and how much time we spent with each department. Excuse me, as always, council may extend that time as needed. However, let's be mindful to keep the discussions focused on the budget requests presented. And if a non-budget topic requires further dialogue, we can certainly ask Mrs. Shell, the council administrator, to reach out and schedule a time at the next available council meeting for further discussion. So during each department's review, they will be asked to explain any increases, decreases, or additions to their 2024 budget. Council members will then be given the opportunity to ask questions. They can make recommendations to increase or decrease account lines based on that discussion or the needs of the department. And then council will vote to approve moving forward with the department's reviewed budget request. And again, this is not the final approval of the budget, but a recognition of the request presented or as amended by the council. That said, I will move to item 4, which is just an updates to the budget numbers based on anything from last night's session. Kim, I know you handed us a piece of paper, so you've been able to update numbers for us, which is fantastic.
I'm going to share my screen. I worked today to get all of the adjustments that were made yesterday. And hold on just a second. So this is a summary of what happened. In the general fund, we had some major changes with regards to removal of some funding. And I also put a note that you had made a note that the medical services line maybe be moved to the correctional lit when that does become established and that kind of thing. The Public Defender's Office, there were some significant changes with regards to salaries being moved from 40 back to 35. So went through and made all those corrections and had the executive assistant for the public defender. She confirmed all of the changes, so I'm very comfortable with that. There was also some changes with regards to their public defender supplemental as well, and that was also due to the change of personnel being moved back to 35 hours. The sheriff's office made some adjustments within their office, as well as the animal control. So that is a combination of those changes. And then with the public safety lit for the sheriff's office, we removed the line with regards to funding the AEDs, just to see if we can get it in a different funding mechanism of some sort. And then the surveyor's office, there was a change with regards to a personnel line, and that's that. So we are now, our total net for general fund budget request is now 46,890,964. I'm echoing. Okay. And 46,890,964. So that is we have been able to reduce the general fund budget by $685,000 plus. And so those numbers are there for your review. So that's what we did last night.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the overview. But I don't want to take up any more time. So are there questions before we jump into departmental budget reviews? No? Okay. Then I would like to invite Judy Sharp, our assessor, to join us along with Lisa Surface, the chief deputy. You want to go ahead and do a...
Yes.
We'll be on the next page.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1000-0008, General Fund Assessor with category requests of, in the personnel category, $941,931, and a total of the same.
Second.
Welcome. Welcome. There we go. Make sure the green,
Oh, put it closer. Sure. I can do that.
as long as it's lit green for you. It's, yeah, you. Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for doing what you do. I know it's a long process. Any questions? I don't change anything. I don't, what am I supposed to say, people? You tell me what to do, it's there. So, the only, want to talk about general fund?
Yes, that's the one.
Yeah, I know. I mean, there isn't anything on general fund that's any different than what it's supposed to be there.
Mm-hmm.
The only increases we had were a 3-year,
Yeah. No, it is on, supposed.
Okay, there we go. The only increases in our general fund budget were a 3-year bump for one employee and a 25-year bump for another.
25 years. Remember that. 25
Congratulations.
years. It's more than that. It's just 125. I've got 3
Amazing. Counselor McKim.
Yes, well, I know that the assessor's office is requesting a reclassification of some of its employees and has presented us with some updated job descriptions. And I know originally we were going to have a PAC meeting where we could vote on that, but it sounds like WIS is not. The timing doesn't work. Can you explain that?
They've got some other projects ahead of us, and the earliest she said that they could probably get them to us would be October 2nd. So I didn't know if you wanted to move the PAC meeting in order to give people time to review things ahead of time, or just to go with it on the October 3rd. So that was my question to the PAC members, because she didn't say what time we would get them, possibly on October 2nd. So, that's where I'm at.
I mean, personally, and I don't know how my colleagues feel, I would be perfectly happy to send these position descriptions to WIS right away. I don't see the need to make the assessor wait an additional, for a meeting just to allow her to send those descriptions. But I mean, my colleagues may feel different, so.
Yes, we've all had the job descriptions now for some time, and actually everybody on the council has. And the sooner we get it to the WIS, the sooner we're going to get on that line that we're waiting on. And so I would suggest that we go ahead and send it and be in the waiting list for WIS, and then it won't be on us.
Yeah, I think right now, they have those job descriptions ready. They're completing the WIS forms to accompany them. And so, yes, I can do whatever you need me to do.
Yeah, I'm in agreement, and as I've said to you also, is I'm most concerned that we have enough people there for quorum.
Okay.
All right, so that'll be done.
Well, I guess do you want to vote, or is this good enough to?
For me, it's good enough. Do we need a vote? I'm going to ask legal.
I think a vote is the safest way.
Okay, so after we vote on this budget, I'll make a motion to send their position descriptions to.
Okay, sounds good. Any questions or comments regarding the general fund budget? In that case, could we go ahead and have the roll call vote on moving forward with the assessor's general fund budget request?
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Crossley,
Yes.
Counselor Decker.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Thank you.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1131-0000 sales disclosure with category requests of in personnel, $47,738, in services, $15,000, for a total of $62,738.
Second.
Okay. Do you have anything to tell us about this fund?
Once again, it's just the, what we were told to put down here. I guess I would have something, because I know you're trying to find some money. Okay. Would the auditor's office happen to know how much money's in the sales disclosure fund?
They can find real quick, yes.
Bet you can find it.
As of today, sales disclosure fund balance is $178,587.55.
You see what I need? About 63,000. Now, with that being, there's a caveat to everything that you get from me. You have to give it right back within the year, I believe. That's how these dedicated funds work. So I don't know what you're going to need from this fund. I don't use it for anything but you see here. I have, we have a part-time person on at least? Yeah.
We actually have a full-time or a split pay
We have a split pay, yeah. So they get half of this and half out of general. We could move her. Sales disclosure.
I like that.
Mine is.
I'm sorry.
She keeps turning hers on. Anyway, yes, that would be a good idea. Why don't we do that? I mean, I don't mind doing that. That is totally legal because these dedicated funds we have to be so careful with.
Totally legal is good. Totally legal is good.
Yeah, it's
like
always
that.
good to be legal. But the other thing is, this market is not going down at all. And we're not getting quite as many sales disclosures as we have for the last 2 years. We don't get like 100 every other day. But we're still getting, well, you guys see if you get the newspaper how many, we publish that every week, so that's up to current. There's still a lot. It's taking, from what I'm understanding from the realtors and title companies, it's taking a little bit longer to sell your home. Instead of a line outside when they've heard that you might be putting it on the market, it might take a month, which is still unbelievable. But the money is still there and it's not going down. They're not losing money on these homes. As I tell everybody, my sales disclosure, people bring me any sales over $1 million because I've never seen so many. Every day we have at least 1 or 2 sales of homes over $1 million. It used to be you would never see $1 million sale. Now it's like, and the average home, I guess you've heard these numbers, the average home right now is almost $300,000 in Monroe County. 3 years ago, it was 169. 3 years ago, it was 169. It is now 300,000. There's no such thing as affordable housing in Monroe County. And I don't know that we can ever build ourselves out of it because, frankly, our wages are not high enough to support the housing that even low income is considered $250,000.
Yep.
I mean, maybe some of you can afford those. Mm-hmm. Most people I know don't have those kind of homes, and it's very sad, but that's my...
So if we were to move the full-time position entirely into that line, would the salary, would it be $34,545? Is that
Yeah, it's pretty cheap.
the right?
Just a little comment though. Yeah, that's one of my low-paid deputies.
Okay,
So-
council, I move we set line 10028, sales disclosure specialist deputy, to $34,545.
Second.
What about the benefits?
And then you would have the other
Well,
stuff.
she's all, I mean,
Betty can
Kim
go
will
with it.
change
Kim can do that.
Sorry, what was that amount again?
$34,545 and all associated benefits.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's really helpful. Are there any comments or questions on that
No.
motion? Okay.
So
Then,
that would then affect our general
Yeah.
fund
We'll
budget?
go back and take that
Okay.
out. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
we can have a roll call vote, please.
On the amendment to reduce line 10028,
Just quick point of order.
Oh.
Is Cheryl on Zoom?
I keep looking, I haven't seen her
So we
yet.
can do voice votes for amendments and that sort of
Oh,
thing.
that is true, yes,
Until
yes.
since we're not doing hybrid rules.
There you go.
She's not.
She's not.
Okay.
So
So voice vote.
Sorry. All in favor of the motion as stated by Councilor McKim, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes. You had a comment.
I did have a question, slightly off budget, but I think it's pertinent based on something you had said a moment ago. You've watched this market for a bit, and my question is, do you remember a year when it wasn't moving, approximately a time that the market wasn't, homes weren't selling? We were like everybody else when homes don't sell.
We have never been like anyone else.
Okay.
It's Monroe County.
Okay.
And I don't say that as, just being facetious. We are acknowledged as this bubble community. Remember the Great Recession in 2008 to 10? We were not impacted. People think we were, but we weren't. houses were not selling, people were not buying, but people weren't losing money or anything else. And as soon as that was over, boom, up they went. We weren't building like we should have. We lost some of our builders. I don't think that has recovered. You can see where all the building is happening right now. It's over in Marty's hometown, over in the Ellisville area. You see what's going to happen. Marty, how many hundreds of homes are going to go over by Cahey? I'm seeing that the whole west side of Monroe County, that's where the building's going. Not that it's not happening here, we just don't have the land that they have west of us. So there is a lot of building, but even those, when you see the prices, $300,000-$400,000, that's a lot of money. And they're getting it. I'm not seeing any slowdown at all, and neither are the realtors. It's just taking maybe a month instead of 10 minutes. And that's not facetious. It was a crazy last, 3 years, 2 to 3 years. I'm in appeals right now. Everybody comes in and says, my house isn't worth this. I overpaid. Sorry. You didn't. You paid the market. I love the $1 million that come in and say I overpaid. And I said, maybe you should have bought an $800,000 house. Okay, I know I'm on camera. I say it to anyone that's heard it. And it's the truth. This community is very unique. And we're lucky. We're blessed. We better be glad of this. I just wish we could, I sound like a broken record, get our salaries, not just in the county, and the city's okay, in the county, but also in our other businesses. We are, when you see, and I sit through all these boards, that we are one of the poorest, I don't know if you saw that thing, we are the poorest county in Monroe, in the state of Indiana. I just saw that article the other day, and I'm going like, well, no, we're not. It's because we count the IU students and that isn't a fair representation. We're not the poorest, but we're sure not up there with Hamilton either. So just a little side, but thanks for asking, Trent.
Thank you.
Are there other questions for the assessor?
Yes, I just wanted to comment that the assessor's office is like a lot of other offices in the county. No matter what else happens, whether the growth would be in Ellisville, if it would be in Bloomington, wherever, the county assessor must be the ones to arrive at what the assessed value is. So as it grows, wherever it's growing, it's still that office that starts the process of what is the value. And we all wait for what's our assessed value going to end up being, and that starts at the assessor's office. And that's how we arrive at what the tax rates are. So that office is the beginning of this whole budgeting process. And people rely on that, even when we don't know we're relying on the assessor's office.
Thank you, Marty. One thing I did fail to mention, I think I've sent all of you, I know I've sent you this data. There has never been a year, and I've been here 37 years now, but anyway, there's never been a year that I can remember that we didn't increase our assessments. It might have just been a few dollars here and there. It was usually in the millions. The last 3 years, I really thought we made a mistake because we were in the billions. Again, this year we increased our assessed value by 1.6 billion with a B. That is humongous. That's due to the values of the properties and stuff. We also, you can look around, see all the cranes. We've got about 1,000 new constructions that we're picking up right now. Out of that is almost 400 new commercials. There's about a dozen humongous apartment complexes that are worth close to $100 million that I'm going to be putting in the books. So yes, and the job is a tremendous job, and I do it with the same amount of people that I've had for a lot of years. Once again, I am so fortunate to have the longevity in my office. I know there's not another office that has the longevity that we do. I think you guys saw the numbers that we put together. It was 197 years longevity in my office. That is only 14 people. It's not like I have 100 people in there. And as I was telling the counselors I rode up with in the elevator, we've only been a state 205 years. So we were not here 197 years ago, but sometimes it feels like it. But I thank you guys very much.
Thank you. Are there other comments or questions on this budget? Then could we please have a roll call vote on moving forward with, we're going to do a voice on this as well?
Well, my suggestion was just to do the voice vote just on the amendments and then do a roll call. I mean, that's my suggestion.
I think I feel better doing that, probably. If we could do the roll call then on the Assessor's Sales Disclosure Fund budget.
Who's going to feel better?
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor McKim?
Yes.
Counselor Hawk?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes?
Counselor Crossley?
Yes.
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Thank you. And now we move to 5C.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1224-0000 Reassessment Fund with category requests of, in the personnel category, $105,497. In the supplies category, $11,000. In services, $719,500. And in the capital category, $10,000. For a total of $845,997.
Second.
Okay.
This also has not really changed. The difference from last year to this year is just our contracts. They do increase every year. And those contracts are my software system, our GIS system that this office has helped fund for, since 91. We still give quite a bit of money to them. And then that was it, really. Schneider, which is the GIS, and Incama. I do have a thing in there, and I can't tell you how much I'm going to spend for appraisals for hearings. It's become very imperative that I have got to do more appraisals. If we go to the board, to the Indiana Board of Tax Review, if I do not have an appraisal and the other side does, no matter how bad it is, they win. That was a new law that our legislators did to us this year. So that is costing the assessors now to have to go, if we go to the state, and I do the big boys, if, Lowe's, and I do that. But if you just as Joe taxpayer decide you don't like my assessment and you get an appraisal, and I don't, I lose. It's over with. I don't know what happens if I do and they don't. It never works that way for me. But I don't use that line very often, just for the big things, but I'm going to have to use it more, I believe, because of the legislation, which is unfortunate.
And that's under the software services? It's combined in there?
Yes, ma'am.
Are there questions or comments from council?
Yes, I just wanted to remind us that what was just said by the assessor is that because the new legislation is really going to end up requiring more dollars to come out of this budget, we had better not cut that line at the bottom for the, when we decide how much they're going to have left over that they can go to if they need an additional appropriation. As a reminder, we cannot borrow from one fund and take it to the other fund without paying it back in the same year unless that legislation changed. I can remember a time when the county had to borrow from the reassessment fund just to make payroll because there was more money in there than there was in county general. It's not that way anymore, and I understand that the assessor wants to capture as much as she can of those bottom lines for county general, but I think we've got to be cautious about doing that because we don't know how many people are going to say, I only paid $100,000 for my house, and it is nowhere is that worth $300,000, and yet it is. So that's what, that could happen.
And I appreciate that very much. I don't know that most of the council members were on when my budget got broke. And it wasn't through anyone's fault. It was because I had this reassessment fund, and you can fund personnel from reassessment that work in my office. So Jeff, you were here, and you remember this. We did it. Very, no big deal. Let's do it, because Jeff made the commitment, and he's a man of his word, and he was. If we break the fund, we have to put it all back in there. And because I have to have that fund to work with. With that being said, we ended up finally having to say, we can't do this, and that was a bad year when you had to put all of my people back in the general fund from the reassessment fund. The reassessment fund looks so, like it's so vibrant. It isn't. You never know until the end of the year what you've had to use. So it's a very disconcerting kind of fund. It looks like I had 500 and some odd thousand right now in reassessment. I'll have more at the end of the year, but we use that, and it's there for a reason, and I fund as much as I possibly can. That's why we fund the GIS as much as we can. This other stuff that helps the whole county out of that, but if we put personnel in there, it eats it alive in no time, and then you'll be putting me back into, because you have to have me. I am kind of vital. So anyway, that's all I have to say about that. Any way I can help, I'm more than happy. That's why sales disclosures is a total legitimate thing. I only have one sales disclosure deputy in it. I only have 2. The sales are slowing down. I used to have 3.5. I'm moving people around. I just have 1 full-time now, and the supervisor over that is taking on other jobs that we have to do because of changes in the law. So hopefully this one deputy that's all that will be in there, unless the market goes even crazier again.
Are there questions or comments? All righty then. Let's go ahead and have a roll call vote on moving forward with the reassessment fund request.
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Counselor Crossley?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor Hawk?
Yes.
Counselor McKim?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
And I have a couple motions to make then. Council, I move we reopen Budget Fund 1000, County General, to location 0008, Assessor, and set line 10028, which is Sales Disclosure Specialist Deputy to 0, along with the accompanying benefits lines.
Second.
Questions on the motion? Discussion? When you're ready, we'll have a vote. One other one.
Yeah, but less.
Counselor Hawk?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor McKim?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Counselor Crossley?
Yes.
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
And then council, I move that we forward the updated position descriptions from the assessor's office to WIS for classification as soon as those forms are available.
Second.
Discussion? When you're ready, we'll have a roll call vote on that one.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Counselor Crossley?
Yes.
Counselor Hawk?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor McKim?
Yes.
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Thank you. And that concludes the assessor's budget review.
Thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Council.
Thank
you.
See you next year.
Thank you.
But I do want to mention Jack Davis, the president of my Property Tax Assessment Board of Appeals, came in, and I just want to acknowledge him. He is awesome. He worked so hard for the county and for my office. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to see you, Jack. We'll now move to item 6.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 100007, General Fund Coroner, with category requests of $178,654 in the personnel category. In supplies, $12,000. In the services category, $294,800, for a total of $485,454.
Second.
Welcome, Ms. Stalkup.
Hello, is it on? No? How about it? Yeah. Got it.
There
Good
you
evening,
go.
council.
Hello.
First of all, I want to say thank you for all of your hard work and effort through the budget hearing and the budget request process. It's lengthy and a lot of hours put in. Second of all, I want to take just a second before we do my budget, because it's really small, very small change, to introduce you to my Chief Deputy, Jeff Hall. A lot of times you all don't necessarily meet my staff, so I wanted to bring my right-hand man with me tonight and let you all have a chance to meet him. So this is Jeff. The only change I made in my budget, a very small one, I upped my others supply line to cover the cost of body bags. Obviously, with the price increase, inflation, and we've had more calls for service, I've also increased the amount of body bags I've had to buy. So that's the only change I've made. I kept it pretty simple.
Thank you. Nice to meet you, Jeff. Welcome.
Thank you.
Are there questions on the coroner's budget?
I do have a question. I thought about this the other day. A couple of years ago, I think it was mentioned that we might need to have a special building. I don't even know what you call it, like our own morgue or something of the sort. Is that the correct name?
That's correct, yeah.
So, and then we heard also from different funeral homes that they were kind enough to accept some of the remains that there was not even a name for, or they couldn't find the family, and they were running out of room for that. This is such an unpleasant thing to talk about, I know, but it is still a responsibility of the county. So I'm wondering if you've worked that situation out, or...
So with the morgue situation, to address that first, when the new hospital was built, it was initially talked about they wasn't going to include providing us as the Monroe County Coroner that same opportunity to use their morgue as our morgue. That changed, and they actually made a larger morgue than what they had anticipated in the initial building of the new hospital. So there's more space there now. I have not ever ran into, since the new hospital's been open, an incident where there was not enough space to contain what we needed to. As far as the funeral homes, I think that was kind of what we were talking about. It was the funeral homes were willing to help out when we didn't have enough cooler space at the old hospital. Since we have the new hospital and a larger morgue, then we haven't ran into that issue.
Thank you.
That's really good to hear. Councilor McKim.
Yeah, I know for a while the cost of both autopsies and body transport were kind of growing out of control, but it looks like that's kind of stabilized now. Is that
Yes.
your impression?
Yes, and we do have a van, so we do all of our own transports from scene to the morgue now. We don't, since we only have one vehicle dedicated to the county, I can't exactly remove that vehicle from the county to take a body over to Terre Haute for an autopsy because we have been so busy. So I still do use a transport company that takes the body over for us to Terre Haute. I worked out with the transport company. I don't have a contract with him, but I had worked out pricing. He was initially charging the same price if he took two versus if he took one. Like the same price each body. And I'm like, hey, if you're picking up one or, two, you're still going over there. Can we discuss that second? So he cut it in half on the second. So it kind of saved us some money that way as well.
Oh, great. Good to hear that. Thanks.
Other questions or comments for the coroner? All right, in that case, could we have a roll call vote on the moving forward with the coroner's general fund budget request?
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Counselor Crossley?
Yes.
Counselor Hawk?
Yes.
Counselor McKim?
Yes.
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
It's good to see you both. Thank you.
Thank you, council.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 7.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1000-0803, General Fund Parks, with category requests of, in personnel, $1,215,246. In supplies category, $222,100. In the services category, $223,100. And in the capital category, $27,400 for a total of,
Sorry, no, I was jumping the gun.
for a total of $1,687,846.
Second.
I jumped because I had a note in my notes that looked a little different. I thought it is different for a reason.
No, it was all my fault.
Welcome. Good to see you, Ms. Whitmer.
It's a real struggle.
Look for it to be green.
How about now?
There you go.
All right.
Green is go. Who would know? I just want to inform maybe the public that they may not know that we manage and maintain over 500 acres of parkland, and in probably a couple of years, it'll be around 600 acres. Our park staff, they concentrate on our facilities to be clean, safe, and ADA accessible. Our recreation and nature staff, they want to make sure their programs are safe, fun, and engaging. So we can't do any of this without our part-time or full-time employees. They mean the most to us, hands down. So we are going to ask for some reductions in our budget, and I can go over those now if you'd like.
Okay, great.
Okay. In operation 24200, the number should be 37,500. Recreation supplies 24205 should be 44,500. Contractual 30006, this did a little bump up, 111,800. Printing and advertising 30500, 6,000. Equipment 40001, 26,000. I also wanted to inform you that, in case you don't know, the park board has non-reverting accounts. We call them our piggy bank because they save their money for large projects. So we ask you to help us with some projects. We ask the commissioners to help us with projects. And then the park board also takes on projects also. So this September, they're going to consider $108,000 worth of projects. $75,000 will be coming from non-reverting. They're ADA projects mostly. From the 2020 bond, we have engineering for Cars Farm Park ADA projects, so we can be shovel ready. So when we have money, we're ready to go. So that's what I'm going to propose for the park board in September, just so you know how they operate with their non-reverting. They save it up for sometimes not exciting things like pumps, but more exciting playgrounds. So with that, are there any questions, or do you want to go line by line?
Whew. Thank you. That was a lot. Yeah, in a good way. Councilor McKim.
Thank you very much. And when we're finished discussing, I can make the motion to make those reductions. The one other additional reduction I plan to move is the elimination of the equipment line. Just as we discussed before, there may be other options that we need to consider first before putting it into your regular budget. I know that this is actually listed, the Bobcat is actually listed in as a possible project for the bond, and there are just other ways that, as you know, even last time, I think we even bought you your equipment early before the budget. So,
Right. Are there other comments or questions on this budget? None. Okay.
Council, I move we set line, let's see, is that 24200 operations to 37,500. Line 24205 recreation supplies to 44,500. Line 30006 contractual to 111,800. Line 30500 printing and advertising to $6,000, and line 40001 equipment to 0.
Second.
All right. Are there questions or comments on the motion? Yeah.
I just want to make a comment that I appreciate the reductions that you're offering. I can remember as your liaison, I can remember early in this process, as I recall, you were one of the first departments to say, we've got a budget, but if it means taking care of our folks and we need to look at cuts within to do it and do that well, as I recall distinctly, you were one of the very first departments or departments elected officials heads to say that. And I appreciate that because I know that you all are exceedingly frugal with your money. And I know you have a lot of things going on. And some of those we have other things that we're trying to figure out with those as well. We talk about cars a lot, and we should be. But I just want to say that I appreciate that. And I appreciate every elected and department head that's come forward with these, because we are trying to hit that goal of taking care of our folks in a tough environment, and that is worthy of all of our attention. So I'm grateful for all your work on that. I know you normally manage Parks and Rec, but that right now is kind of all of our thing to figure out, so thank you.
Well, we are a team, and you're probably going, where's your team? Well, we've had 2 babies born in the last 2 weeks,
Wow.
so they're a little busy right now.
Wow.
I know.
Well, congratulations to them. That's fantastic. Remind me not to drink the water in the showers building. No, really, kudos. And you depend a lot on your part-time employees through the season, if I recall correctly.
We have what's called a part-time manager or park hub, and they are at those parks the entire season. One's at Will Detmer Park, Flatwoods Park, and the other one we put at the Sheriff's Substation for the Limestone Greenway and Jackson Creek Park. They're seasoned employees. One used to be our park superintendent back in the day, and the other one used to work for DNR. So we have quite experienced part-time people taking care of those parks and making sure everything is correct and safe.
Great. Are you finding, it sounds like you've got great folks for those positions. Do you have other part-time positions then? Are you still running, for instance, camp activities?
Well, camp's over for the summer. We do have after-school programs, we have nature programs, we have adult soccer programs. So there's and Bug Fest is coming up at Cars Farm Park. Also Walk for the Animals is at Cars Farm Park this year also. So we have a lot of special events going on and off throughout the year.
All right. Any trouble with staffing? We're hearing a lot about recruitment and staffing.
This year's better than last. And actually last year, some of the problem that we had a few folks that got COVID and maybe long COVID. So we waited very patiently for them to come back because we wanted them to come back. We always have a few people you know, they said, boy, this is hard work. And we went, well, maybe this isn't for you. But this year was better than last.
All right, good to know. So we need to vote on the amendment. I got a little sidetracked. So could we have a, is that what that is? All right. That's awesome. All in favor of amending the parks, sorry, make sure I say the right thing, the Parks General Fund budget as stated by Councilor McKim, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passed. Any other questions or comments on this budget? Yes.
Just a general comment. I mean, I still think, Kelly, you played such a pivotal role in getting Karst Farm Greenway, the last phase, done. And I just think that's a world-class trail. That and the Limestone Greenway are, I think they do our county proud. I think they're as good as anything I've seen anywhere. And they're super well maintained.
Well, thank you, and all the staff is, we have people out there all the time, but we also have trail counters up. So in a few months after we kind of digest, the numbers we're seeing we're like, is this real? We are having a lot of numbers on our counters, but we'll want to digest the information. And we're looking at another drinking fountain and all kinds of amenities to help people along the trail.
And I hear from, I used to, as you know, I used to walk the old railroad corridor out to Ellettsville all the time before it was built, and used to talk to landowners who, weren't very happy about the idea of the trail coming. And I tell you, I don't hear that anymore. When I run into landowners there, they're really impressed with what you all have done, and they think it's just really well maintained and also well policed, and they feel like it's safe and clean.
We do want to thank the Sheriff's Department. They've been proactive on the Limestone Greenway, in the Karst Farm Greenway, in stopping in and out of our parks with their patrol vehicles. So please, thank you for the Sheriff's Department.
Thank you.
Other comments or questions? All right, could we please have a roll call vote on the, I'm sorry, did I miss you?
I just wanted to say thank you, Jeff, for saying that, because when that was first being proposed, I was not getting any support from people, and they were just adamant, don't support that trail. And now they are so happy to have it. It really is helping their property values as well as just the enjoyment. So it's up to us to keep it that way. Don't let us down. I know you won't.
Well, I do want to tell folks, this is a long-term thing, but we've been working with Owen County and Ellettsville. Someday, we're trying to get a trail from Flatwoods Park to McCormick's Creek State Park to Spencer. So just keep that in mind. So someday, you might be able to get in Spencer, go to the McCormick's Creek State Park, hit Ellettsville, and hit Bloomington. So we're trying to connect everything. And Ellettsville's been wonderful to work with, absolutely wonderful.
That is fantastic.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Big deal.
Sounds exhausting, but exciting. Any other comments? I apologize for not looking your direction. In that case, if we could have the roll call vote on moving forward with the Parks Department General Fund budget request.
Counselor Crossley?
Yes.
Counselor Hogg?
Yes.
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes,
Counselor McKim?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
thank you.
Thank you.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1178-0000 Parks Non-Reverting Capital with category requests of in personnel, $26,913. In the supplies category, $200. In the services category, $5,100.
Yeah, there's no personnel in there, is there?
That
This is not-
may be in there.
This is not matching yeah.
Yeah,
So if we want these, we're gonna just read it off of that.
It's on the screen.
Oh, it's also up there if you want it.
The supply,
So we've got supplies, services,
17,000
I can give you a hard copy.
and 33,000.
And
for
33.
60,000.
For capital at the end.
Yeah.
Supplies, services, capital, correct?
Yes.
All right.
I copied the wrong ones, I'm sorry.
That's all right, I read the wrong one. Council, I move to open, pardon me, one second. I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1178-0000, Parks Non-Reverting Capital with category requests in the supplies category, $10,000. In the services category, $17,000. And in the capital category, $33,000 for a total of $60,000.
Second.
Okay.
I think you might have missed it by 1,000.
I did.
No.
That's what I have on my screen.
60,000.
Nope. That's what we have. 10, 17, 33.
I can't, sorry.
50 plus
Right.
10 is 60.
Yeah. So,
Yep, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep.
Did I say 32?
No, you said 33.
Let me, just to be clear, let me amend the prior motion just in case to say in capital, $33,000.
same total of 60.
Same total of 60,000.
Second.
All right. It looks like this budget is unchanged.
Yes, it's perfectly the same as 2022, in 2023, 2024.
All right. Thanks. Other questions?
I just have to laugh, the Zoom transliteration for non-reverting, it keeps saying non-burning. So we're talking about non-burning capital.
We're not going to burn this. Non-burning. That's funny.
Burn it.
Any questions to my left? Okay, then let's go ahead and have that roll call vote, please, for the Parks Non-Reverting Capital Fund budget request.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Crossley,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz.
Yes,
Motion passed unanimous.
and that concludes the budget review for Parks.
Thank you, excellent.
Thank you.
Now we're at item 8 with our Health Department.
All right, council, watch me close. We got a lot of moving parts here. Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1159-0000 Health Fund with category requests of, in the personnel category, $1,442,575. In the supplies category, $32,000. In the services category, $447,800 for a total of $1,922,375.
Second.
And we have Ms. Kelly here. Thank you.
Yes,
Good to
of
see you.
course. Good to see you.
What would you like to tell us about this budget?
Sure. So currently, we are transitioning into the Health First Indiana plan. So tonight, I think the discussion is going to be kind of a game plan that we have set aside with the understanding that we're going to be moving some of these lines and accounts around once those documents get finalized. So my understanding is we are still having all of the employees in this line, so some other adjustments that we've made to 1159 we have moved the health officer to the contractual line. The other supplies we are using for environmental tools and supplies. Uniforms, we do have money set aside in that fund to cover county-labeled shirts and jackets. And let's see. Some other adjustments that we were making is the VaxCare, decreasing that line so that we can begin appropriating VaxCare revenue.
Are there questions on this budget? Councilor McKim?
So I guess just so I understand, at some point, the thought is that some of these lines will be removed from this budget and move to the 1161, or, okay.
Correct, yes. Originally, it was budgeted right at that opt-in minimum amount county rate within just a few $100s. So we are going to be right around that $900,000 range.
Okay, but the idea was, at this point, let's just put it all in both funds?
That's my understanding.
Sure. As we were discussing this prior to the sessions, that was the auditor's preference. We still have not been able to confirm a distribution date for certain for the new health funding for Fund 1161, the new fund. So we know it's coming. We just don't know exactly when. January sometime is the thought, I believe. But if you wanted to reduce 1159 now, I mean, it is over budget. I think the actual budget is like around 930,000, if I remember correctly. I have it in the email from her financial manager.
I mean, I don't feel that, I think we all understand that we're all kind of figuring this out together, and that this will be the first year for this new process. And so, I'm okay leaving it as it is, understanding that I know that the auditor's office and you are monitoring this really closely, and at some point we'll be reducing these lines, because I know that the auditor has already chosen not to shift any levy into this fund. So it's essentially not hurting us in the overall. Having it as is not really hurting us this year in the overall calculation. So.
Yes, so the county match opt-in is $984,595. And we were pretty spot on to that originally when we first started budgeting. The Health First Indiana funding is going to be coming in January. So I think what's important to understand here is this is going to be replacing our local health maintenance. So previously that was paid out in the 2 settlements. We'll be getting one lump sum every January, as long as we're opted in.
Other questions? Councilor Hogg?
Well, it's just that we still have to.
You're not on. You're not on.
We still have, it isn't like as if we don't have to fund any portion of it. So I just want to make sure we don't think this is all since we opt in, we're out of the woods.
Well, I think she already said 984,595 is our opt-in.
So we have to leave that in there someplace. So will that, this is really confusing. So will that still be in the frozen levy, the $980-some thousand?
That's the way I understand it, that 1159 will still be. Yeah. So there'll still be almost $1 million in that fund, just not $2 million.
Right.
I mean, is that the way you understand it too? That's great.
And we're okay with keeping that in our back pocket and not doing anything about it here and now. Because there's just been some other things that I know we've done knowing it's going to happen later. And so just differentiating.
It does sound like there's going to be ambiguity until January, maybe.
I have not seen a distribution date, so we're just unaware of when that will come. We could watch it closely and deappropriate when that funding comes in, or you could choose to change the budget now, knowing that you have funding in both places. I mean, it's kind of a council decision.
I mean, the reason why I'm not pushing.
I'm sorry. I just want to make a note that Councilor Munson is appearing now. So
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I guess the reason why I'm not pushing to reduce it now is, first of all, I guess I'd like to, I'm waiting for the auditor to confirm the distribution dates, but then also because the 4Bs are not putting any levy in there, it's not hurting us with respect to any of the other funds to let it sit. Not this year. I mean, you're right, in future years, we would, yeah.
Yeah, we'll use balance.
Yeah, and certainly in the next year, we would have to. Yeah, you're right.
Well, I will go with that, if you feel comfortable with that.
Yeah,
Okay. Other questions on this budget? Yes, Councilor Iverson.
Yeah, so this budget 1159 is where most of your personnel lines are. I mean, you've got personnel lines scattered throughout all your budgets, but most of them are here. And so I just wanted to see how things are going in terms of employee retention and acquisition. It's tough for everybody. I asked the same question of the Sheriff's Department and a bunch of other departments, and just how's it going?
So from my understanding, the trend has kind of continued over the past few years, just some constant in and out of some of the roles. The part-time positions are extremely hard to fill. It's just really hard to find those who are interested in just filling some of those part-time positions and then getting them hired in and getting them trained, and then the retention with that. In addition, salaries do factor in. So, you go to the private sector, you're going to be making a lot more money. With our public health nurses, we actually do pretty well for the most part compared to other health departments, but that is because we contract with IU Health, so they are making those IU Health salaries. So our nurses are paid more than, for example, nurses within other health departments. So I do think that it is a factor, and of course we would like to be able to increase our salaries, not only for the work that these employees are putting in, but to invest in them and keep them, long-term.
Sure, yeah. And do you have a lot of vacancies right now, or are you pretty staffed up, or how's it?
We are pretty staffed up right now, so we did just have another part-time position that's become available, but it has been filled for the Futures Family Planning Clinic, and we have a senior foods position that's going to be becoming available.
Great, great. That's good to hear that you don't have a lot of vacancies.
Right, so that's it. Everything else is filled.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Other questions or comments on this budget? Yes, Councilor Deckard.
I just had a quick one. I saw, and I lost my place, but I saw uniforms allowance in there. Is that a new thing? And can you tell me a little more about what that might go into?
Sure. So two different areas for uniforms or clothing. So one, it was requested to me to be able to provide staff, particularly our field staff, with county labeled apparel. This is really important if they're going and responding, for example, to a complaint case for our wastewater. They're going on somebody's property. The person may or may not know that they're there kind of looking around. Really being able to have a jacket or a shirt on that, says health department, so they look more official. And I think that that's important for their safety. They have had interactions with the public where they've been chased off properties with guns or chased down the road, in county vehicles. So I think that that's something that we can definitely provide. The other areas for our wastewater division, I did increase $250 for 3 additional employees who have been assisting with the wastewater section, just trying to get them the backlog kept up. And I think it's really important that they have that $250 each year to be able to get the protective gear and the boots, shock-proof gloves. That wasn't something that they ever had before, and I really think it's something that we should provide for them.
Thank you.
Other questions? Councilor Iverson.
Yeah, down in line 30021, phones and pagers, there's a pretty big jump. Can you talk about that?
Sure. So we did have a request for additional field staff that would like cell phones. In addition, I'm going to be honest, this was a really challenging budget season. We have so much room to work in our Health First Indiana and our other funds that a lot of these areas, we were just adding money to, because we had to get to that county opt-in amount.
Oh, sure.
So, I mean, we just had to start, I just had to start plugging money in to get to that county minimum amount. So I don't anticipate us reaching that full amount. It's definitely something that we could move around to a different area, but again, it's really challenging to create a budget until I know exactly where I can place everything.
It is so interesting to hear you say that, because we're just in such a different area than we were 3 years ago or 5 years ago, to have the health department say, you know, we have these resources now. It's good news.
It is. It's giving us a lot of opportunities.
Good.
Other comments or questions? Okay. Then let's go ahead and have a roll call vote on moving forward with the Health Department's Health Fund 2024 budget request.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Counselor Hogg?
Yes.
Counselor Munson?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor Crossley?
Yes.
Counselor McKim?
Yes.
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
We're moving to 8B.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1161 0000 Local Public Health Services with category requests of in personnel $916,228, in the supplies category $80,244, in the services category $387,571, and in the capital category $800, for a total of $1,384,843.
Second.
Thank you. And do you have anything particular you'd like to point out in this particular budget?
No, so our personal health care, that's for our contract for our public health nursing line. And HealthNet, that's for our maternal services. We just give them money to providing maternal services for us. I am just trying, I think I got a little, what fund is this in?
1161.
Okay, I was not aware we were talking about this.
Because
That, we had been budgeting, we'd been budgeting it and it was included. I just accidentally left it off the agenda.
Okay.
So,
we amended the agenda at the beginning to include it. If you're not prepared to talk about this, we can push it to another time.
Sure. I mean, I think that would be best, and it will be changing.
Oh, okay.
This is kind of the other half of the
Yes.
1159. This is the new state.
And that's the yellow indicated on people's screens, that it was double budgeted in Fund 1159.
Yeah.
Council, I move to table my prior motion indefinitely.
Second.
There we go. All right. We should vote on that. Could we have a roll call vote on tabling that?
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Counselor Crossley?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Counselor Hogg?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor McKim?
Yes.
And Counselor Munson?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous. And I apologize about that. I thought I sent you a note.
That's okay. I mean, I can go through it, but it is going to be changing again.
Yeah. It makes sense.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1168-0000 Local Health Maintenance with category requests of in personnel $26,913, in the supplies category $200, and in services $5,100, for a total of $32,213.
Second.
Okay, so just a few items here. So we will continue using this money down until it's all gone, and then the State Board of Accounts will close this out. So as of June of 2023, we had just a little under $500,000. So I have budgeted for a part-time employee that's performing data entry. The goal is to transition that employee into some of our retention work that we need to be done, that needs to be done in the office. Just some money in, supplies and services to keep those account lines open for future needs. And that's really about it.
Other questions or comments on this budget, Councilman McKim?
So no future revenues are going in here, but you don't have to transfer anything out. You can just spend it down, or will it?
That is correct, as long as we are opting in.
Okay.
Yes.
So, and you said the balance mid-year was 500,000-ish?
Yeah, a little bit below that, but, so, I mean,
got like
this will give us
15
a little
years.
bit of a cushion, right?
Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
Just start talking. Is there a deadline by which you need to have this fund spent down?
No, just once it's gone, and they'll close it out.
Okay.
So it can be emergency funds, I think we need to be smart about this, which is why I've budgeted some in here, but, really figure out a long-term strategic plan for, using this money or keeping it for, critical needs that could arise.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, there's a lot of money in that fund. All right.
Sorry, just taking some notes. Other questions or comments? Okay, in that case, could we have a roll call vote on moving forward with the Health Department's local health maintenance fund request?
Counselor Munson? Not available.
Yeah, I was like, okay.
Counselor McKim?
Yes.
There we go.
Okay. Counselor Munson?
Yes.
And Counselor McKim?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor Hawk?
Yes.
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Counselor Crossley?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1206-0000 Local Health Trust Fund with category requests of in personnel $65,498, in supplies $3,050, in services $3,100, for a total of $71,648.
Second.
Would you like to tell us anything about this one?
So similar to what we previously discussed, so we'll just be using this funding down until it's completely gone, and then if we're still continuing to opt in, this was going to be closed out anyways because it's tobacco settlement money. So at mid-year, we had around $150,000 in this fund. So still have the tobacco educator in this position, and set aside some money for supplies and for services, training, travel, for our outreach and education.
Okay, questions, Councilman McKim?
So at some point is the idea to have the tobacco educator either in 1159 or 1161?
Correct. So here in the future, we'll transition that position over, like will happen with the majority of the positions.
Other questions? Councilor Crossley?
Yeah, I was just out of curiosity, in line 30014 and other supplies, wait, sorry, 20011 other supplies, it went from 50 to a budget of 3,000. Can you just tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. So we do need to get a tobacco program, an education program up and running. We need to reestablish that. That's one of our core service requirements with Health First Indiana. So I did budget that amount of money to begin using for supplies, for brochures, educational materials to help us get this program up and running. And that was really just the thought behind that.
Okay, thank you.
So that program was not in place prior to this year?
We did not have a health department program, so they had the Baby and Me Tobacco Free, that's a state program, and that has been going on. But previously, IU Health with the public health clinic was providing all of the adult education, outreach, classes, assistance with quitting smoking, and I really think it's going to be important for the health department to really take ownership of that program and develop our own program to be able to create education and outreach in the community.
Counselor Hawk.
Will you plan on having outreach to the grade school and junior high and high school students, the dangers of e-cigarettes and vaping, and that's becoming way too prevalent. And by the time people realize how dangerous it is, it's addictive. I'm only going by what I read. I don't know. I don't have children of that age.
Right.
But I do think from what you read that it appears to be very dangerous.
Yes, absolutely, and that's where our school liaison is going to come into play with providing those services, and then the hope is to get the health and wellness coordinator position approved so that those two positions can work collaboratively on providing this education and outreach to all populations in the community.
All right. Other questions, comments? Okay, could we have a roll call vote on moving forward with the local health trust fund budget request?
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Counselor Munson?
Yes.
Counselor McKim?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor Hawk?
Yes.
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Counselor Crossley?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 4906-0000, Public Health Emergency Fund, with category requests of, in supplies, $10,000, in the services category, $10,000, for a total of $20,000.
Second.
So this is just more emergency funding. This money originated from the local health maintenance fund, and it's just set aside and reserved for emergency situations.
Okay, thanks. Counselor Iverson.
I should know this. I apologize, but what constitutes a public health emergency? Are you talking about pandemic? Are you talking about, I guess, yeah.
Sure, so I think it could be anything from the local level of a measles outbreak all the way up to another pandemic. So just needing the critical funding to support, either vaccinations, protective equipment, items like that in a crisis situation.
Okay, great, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Counselor McKim.
So wait, does new revenue come in each year into this, or is there just a fixed amount? Or
yeah, this is just that set amount, from my understanding, that was pulled from the local health maintenance.
Okay, and how much is in it?
20,000 is in here.
So I mean that's how much revenue is in there.
In this fund, and it's appropriated. Yes. This was not, this was from the local health maintenance, from my understanding, though.
Okay.
Can I say one more? Have you ever used this?
I have not. Ms. Cottle set this fund up.
Yeah.
So I have not.
Okay, thank you.
Do you know what the balance is? Yeah, that's it. I don't know.
Yeah, we've only had this for just a couple years, I think.
Yeah. Seems like one of those things that we were talking about yesterday where
4906.
we set it up last year and didn't realize.
It's okay.
Okay, sorry for the delay. $20,032.76.
Okay, so it really is just $20,000. Okay. I'm just curious what the point of even setting this fund. I know you didn't set it up. I'm just curious.
And it's just not a lot of money for an
what
emergency.
the point is to even set it up.
Right.
Why not just create those lines in one of the other budgets?
I'm not sure, and again, this, I mean, we could use it up. We also have COVID revenue for reimbursements that I am working with the financial manager that we're going to set aside in a separate fund. And again, that money is just strictly for vaccine-related activities and events. So lots of buckets of emergency funds.
I was going to say, the more I look at this and kind of think about back to this, I believe I remember when we did this. And I remember because I think I said something on it and got kind of fired up because we were in the heat of the pandemic, as I recall. And I think Ms. Cottle, if I'm remembering this right, there was some thought that in the future, when you need things to respond to it and you're doing new things, that becomes the case. That you need something that you draw from. That said, I think if the current administrator is kind of looking at it and saying, I'm not real sure.
Hello.
I think that might be an opportunity to revisit it, but keeping in mind, when you're not in the pandemic, you're not thinking about it. When you're in it, you wonder why you didn't think about it. And so I think for the health department, health board, how that moves forward in an artful way that we do think about what would we do, because when that hit us, we were discovering all sorts of new things, as you all could write a book on. So, yeah.
Other comments or questions on this? Nothing? All right. We'll leave $20,000 in our little emergency fund and see what happens. Could we have a roll call vote, please, on the moving forward with the Health Department's Public Health Emergency Fund budget request?
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes?
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Crossley.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And we will now do a 10-minute recess and start back again with item number 9 at 6:45.
It's the prosecutor.
Yes, it is.
Prosecutor.
I don't feel like, oh, now it's working. Thanks. We are at item number 9 on our agenda with our prosecutor, Erica Alpha, and Beth Hamlin is joining us too. Welcome. Do we need a motion?
I need to turn my mic on too. Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1000-0009, General Fund Prosecutor with category requests of in personnel, $2,597,129. In the supplies category, $11,500. In the services category, $130,550 for a total of $2,739,179.
Second.
All right, thank you. I appreciate all the time that the council is putting into this very difficult resource allocation process, so thank you for that. I think you all know what the biggest ask is in this particular budget, and that is increased pay for my deputy prosecuting attorneys. And I'd just like to mention, though he's not speaking, Mr. Hunt from the Public Defender's Office has come in support of this request. So deputy prosecuting attorney salaries must be increased to be competitive with other Indiana counties so that we can recruit and retain quality candidates. In many ways, prosecution is a calling. It's a labor of love. We don't do it to get rich. We do it because we believe in justice. However, there are certain fiscal realities that we all have. First, I'd like to talk about what I'm asking the council and Monroe County taxpayers to pay for. The workload for my deputy prosecuting attorneys is punishing. At least 4 of my most experienced attorneys, people who I would describe as career prosecutors, have approached me in the last year complaining of burnout from the work that we do. The stress associated with our work impacts our mental health. I'll start with just the numbers in our office, sort of the quantitative analysis of what we do. In 2022, we filed 1,983 misdemeanor cases and 1,137 felony cases. If the council has any questions about data from other years, I've brought the last several years, but I don't yet have any numbers for 2023. In order to manage caseloads and keep an eye on how many cases each deputy is handling, we do a quarterly count of the pending cases that each deputy is handling. On average, our misdemeanor and level 6 deputies have between 300 and 350 pending cases at any given time. Our felony deputies average between 250 and 300 pending cases. According to research that was done by the Indiana Prosecuting Attorneys Council based on 2019 filings, if Monroe County had the caseload caps that the Public Defender's Office had, we would need 7.84 misdemeanor attorneys to handle our misdemeanor caseload. We currently have 4 misdemeanor and level 6 deputies. We would also need about 9 felony deputies. We currently have 7. I would just like to point out that I'm not here today asking for more deputy prosecutor positions, even though that request would be warranted by the caseloads. The content of our work is difficult, and it comes with secondary trauma. We see the human misery and suffering that result from mental health and substance use issues. We also see the worst things that people do to one another, horrifying violence and abuse. I have friends and family members who've specifically asked me not to talk about my work because it is too sad and too scary. So those are the things that my deputies are handling to the tune of 250 to 350 cases each at a time. As many of you know, I served on the drug treatment court team for 5 years, and recovery work is near and dear to my heart and has been for several years. We are saving lives with that work. But unfortunately, with fentanyl and methamphetamine, the ever-changing drug culture, we are seeing cases that involve the tragic loss of young lives to overdose deaths. Some of those people who were triumphs and success stories to us before are lost. We become invested in those glimmers of hope only to have our hearts broken when those people die. Last night, during the public defender's presentation, I mentioned the increased labor of reviewing body-worn camera videos and digital evidence. What I didn't mention is that many times that work is horrifying. The type of evidence that we have to review and present includes child forensic interviews, interviews of victims of crime, video or images of injured or deceased people, and sometimes child pornography. I want to give a couple of examples from my own personal experience. I handled a case involving the torture and murder of a 12-year-old child. In that case, I had over 30 hours of body-worn camera and police interview footage to comb through, including videos at the hospital showing an emaciated and injured victim. Additionally, I had to review the contents of 5 cellular telephones, including Google Drive and application data. Contained on those devices and in those drives were photographs and videos depicting horrifying acts of violence and abuse toward this child. Further, there were callous text messages between these defendants regarding the abuse. On top of that, there were many autopsy photos. And during the course of that case, I spoke on the phone and in person with a 9-year-old little sister of that victim who had also experienced abuse at the hands of the defendant. I also spoke with the mother who was devastated by the loss of her child and what had happened to her surviving child. Now, that case resulted in convictions for murder with significant sentences. It took 3 years to fully litigate the case. There were at least 4 all-day evidentiary hearings. I wrote at least 2 legal briefs that were greater than 10 pages long. It went up on appeal while the case was pending here. We had to wait for the Court of Appeals to issue a decision before we could move forward. What I saw and dealt with in that case will be with me forever, and that's just one example of the kind of things that we handle, again, to the tune of 250 to 350 cases at a time. Now, that case does remind me why I do what I do. There are people who do heinous things, and there are victims in a community who deserve justice. But this public service comes at a pretty significant personal cost. In spite of our burnout, in spite of our difficult subject matter, we try cases when we need to a jury or to the court, and more often than not, we get convictions as a result of those trials. In the last year, we have gotten a guilty verdict at trial on a felony murder case. We got a guilty on a rape case recently at a jury trial. We got a guilty for 3 counts of child molesting at a bench trial. We had a domestic violence trial that resulted in conviction for domestic battery in front of a jury. We had a misdemeanor criminal mischief trial, which is a damage to property case that resulted in conviction at jury trial. We had a rape trial that unfortunately did not yield a conviction for rape, but did yield a conviction for criminal confinement in front of a jury. We had another trial that resulted in a guilty on a felony battery with serious bodily injury, bench trial. I personally tried a domestic violence homicide case that resulted in a guilty verdict for murder. Not one to leave solid evidence supporting a pay increase on the table, I'd also like to mention that at least 3 of my deputy prosecutors have outside employment in addition to their full-time job in my office. I just want to be clear, it is my policy that these jobs be reported to me, that they create no conflict of interest for our office, and that they not interfere with their normal business hours or their duties to the office. But one of our deputy prosecutors reported that if it weren't for her second job, she and her husband, who is a public school educator, wouldn't be able to afford their oldest son's braces this year. I'd like now to talk about the staffing issues that I've had in the last year. I know Mr. Iverson's been asking that question. I'm going to answer it for you. In 2022, a deputy prosecutor retired from my office with 22 years of service to Monroe County. I also lost an experienced felony deputy prosecutor who decided to take employment at the Marion County Public Defender's Office, where she was paid more money to handle misdemeanors and level 6 felonies there than she was to handle major felony sex crimes here. Not only did I lose a tremendous amount of experience and knowledge, I was left with 2 deputy prosecutor positions to fill. Now, in the criminal division, I have 12 deputy prosecutors that are paid by the county, just to give you a perspective of how many that was. I've received very few applicants, and those that I did receive were either unqualified or they could not take a pay cut or afford the housing costs to move to Monroe County. For a year, my staff and I have been triaging caseloads, trying to keep up with the volume of work without sacrificing the quality of our services. One of my more experienced deputy prosecutors handled 2 felony caseloads in Circuit Court 2. She did receive a lot of help from my first deputy prosecutor to do that, but she did that until I could find someone to relieve her of one of those caseloads. I interviewed candidates from Warwick County and Johnson County, but both of those respectfully turned me down on the basis of pay, and I ended up promoting one of my misdemeanor and level 6 felony prosecutors into that position. After I stopped that gap and that reassignment of caseloads, I personally handled 2 misdemeanor and level 6 felony caseloads at the same time, one in Circuit Court 2 and one in Circuit Court 9. I was in court every week, if not every day, during that time, and that lasted for about 2 months. Finally, that was about November to January. In January of this year, I started paying a law student part-time to help manage one of the misdemeanor caseloads. I was trying to be creative. He is bright, and it was a lot of help, but he could not work full-time because he was still in law school. He was also not a licensed attorney, so he had to be supervised by an attorney. In February, I again just tried to shake up the caseload reassignments to try to make it more manageable. Starting on Valentine's Day of this year, I assigned myself roughly 275 felony cases in Circuit 9. My first deputy took over one of those misdemeanor caseloads for me, and I had moved my felony deputy prosecutor down to one of those caseloads because he was struggling in the caseload. I had that major felony caseload from Valentine's Day until about 2 weeks ago. We received a handful of resumes, but often the applicants had no criminal litigation experience, making them wholly inappropriate for the felony caseload that I needed filled. I interviewed candidates from Lawrence and Hamilton counties, but the only applicants with appropriate experience for the available position made more money where they were, and they withdrew themselves from consideration once we got to the discussion of salary. I have tried to reach out to deputies that I know in other counties, essentially trying to poach from my colleagues, but I have not been successful doing that. I am happy to report that finally I have been able to recruit a misdemeanor and level 6 felony deputy who came with good recommendations, and I promoted someone in misdemeanors to the felony caseload that I was handling. Wait a second. Okay, sorry. My part-time law student just got his bar exam results, and so he will be licensed to practice law in October, and he will stay with us. So in October, I will have a full complement of deputy prosecutors for the first time in over a year. In case what you may have just heard is that my first deputy and I have time to handle full-time caseloads, and maybe you can save money on deputy prosecutor positions, I'd like to go ahead and disabuse you of that thought. I'll first start with my first deputy. My first deputy is a talented, dedicated workhorse. He's been a prosecutor for about 8 years. He handles caseloads that include all of our civil Monroe County Adult Protective Services cases, our post-conviction relief cases, our expungements, and occasionally some random Bureau of Motor Vehicles petitions. He also shares in managerial and supervisory duties with my deputies. He represents my office on the Department of Child Services Regional Services Council, which I'm a member of that by statute, and he serves in my stead. He serves on the Suicide and Overdose Review Team here in Monroe County and on all 4 of our problem-solving court teams. He trains law enforcement on legal matters, including search and seizure and general criminal law, and he also answers law enforcement calls and assists them with search warrants and court orders. In light of our staffing issues, much of his civil casework had to take a back seat to help keep our criminal cases moving. As I mentioned, he supervised our law clerk, who was handling the misdemeanor caseload while that law student was studying for and taking the bar exam. He's handled some of our more pressing issues and pending sex cases while we had a vacancy in that caseload, including serving as co-counsel in a bench trial that yielded 3 convictions for child molestation. He has also served on co-counsel for a murder trial that resulted in conviction. He tends to help with our more complex criminal litigation. One of my felony deputies has faced, unfortunately, a couple of extended medical leaves, and my first deputy has taken on many of his duties during those leaves. My first deputy is classified as SO Attorney C. He currently makes $84,667 a year. He has been headhunted by 2 different elected prosecutors in other Indiana counties who offered him at least a $10,000 raise in each instance to handle less responsibility than he does for me. Fortunately, he has not left, but if I were to lose him, my office would truly be in rough shape. So I just wanted to make sure you understand he's not available for a full-time caseload. It was completely unsustainable for me to continue handling a full-time caseload on top of my ordinary duties. I love the work and I miss it. I miss being in the courtroom at times. And I have maintained a few of the more complex cases that I was handling in Judge Fawcett's court. But as you know, I manage a staff of 56 people, which comes with regular human resource needs, such as managing training, caseloads, assignments, family and medical leaves. With our staffing issues, I've had to fairly constantly try to address burnout within my criminal division deputies. We're often trying to decide what procedural changes could make our lives a little bit easier. In addition to criminal prosecution, my office is responsible for child support enforcement and adult protective services. I advocate at the state level for increased local funding from the state. Specifically, I've met multiple times with FSSA and Indiana Adult Protective Services to advocate for additional funding for our hub, hoping that the county would be relieved of some of its burden in supplementing the state program. With the capable assistance of Executive Director Beth Hamlin, I also apply for and manage grant funds to help us provide quality services to Monroe County taxpayers. Specifically, we receive grant funds that pay for a portion of our sex and domestic violence deputy salaries, our victim assistance salaries. We also receive funding for high-tech crime unit, adult protective services, and child support. I often have to meet with other department leadership, including police chiefs, the sheriff, judges, the public defender, and the probation department to work on policy and procedural issues, as well as case-specific matters. Beth will attest that I often have people stopping in my office, whether it be defense attorneys, law enforcement, members of my staff, who need guidance on what to do, and I can't provide that if I'm not available and accessible. I am engaged in an intensive research project looking into racial and ethnic disparities in prosecutorial decision-making in Monroe and Lake counties. I'd like to spend more time developing and implementing policy and procedural changes that have already been suggested as a result of our study. As you know, the council funded our original project to get that research started, and our investment in this research is only going to have value if we timely do something with those results. I oversee a grant-funded high-tech crime unit in collaboration with Indiana University Police Department, including grant and budget compliance, policy development, and oversight. And we are a leader in developing best practices and procedure for digital evidence collection and storage in the state. I personally serve on the Child Fatality Review Team, the Community Corrections Advisory Board, and the Local Justice Reinvestment Advisory Council. My deputy prosecutors serve on the following teams: suicide and overdose review team, child protection team, sexual assault response team, the city county gun violence prevention task force, as well as problem-solving court teams. So before I was handling any full-time caseloads, starting in November of last year, I was already busy. When I had the full-time caseloads, it was very difficult to catch me. And I know Beth was particularly frustrated because she had a hard time getting me to answer questions or, do some of my managerial duties. I'm confident that I was not as effective as I could have been at either my administrative duties or my casework because it was too much. We are not paying deputy prosecutors what the other counties are paying. I've had my deputies solicited by at least 5 other elected prosecutors that I know about, and each one has offered more money. I am fortunate in that I haven't lost anyone yet to these efforts, but it's probably only a matter of time. The Indiana Prosecuting Attorneys Council posts jobs online that are available at the various prosecutors' offices around the state. And from there, I found the pay that's being offered to deputy prosecutors around the state. And so I want to give you some examples to compare. So just as a reminder, our misdemeanor and level 6 prosecuting attorneys are classified as SO Attorney A, which starts at $59,769. And with 25 years of experience, it can cap at $75,712. Allen County pays an entry-level deputy prosecutor $70,000 to start. Clark County pays a misdemeanor and level 6 felony deputy, what's comparable to mine, $75,000. Hancock County pays a misdemeanor level 6 felony deputy up to $80,000. St. Joseph County pays a misdemeanor and traffic deputy $64,640 to start. Tippecanoe County, home of Purdue University, pays a misdemeanor deputy between $74,193 and $86,997. Floyd County pays a felony and misdemeanor DPA up to $80,000. Marion County pays $61,500 for misdemeanor and level 6 felonies. Morgan County specifically mentions looking for a recent law grad, somebody who's newly out of law school, and will pay $68,000 to $81,000. Our felony deputy prosecuting attorneys are classified as SO Attorney B, which starts at $68,651 and caps at $86,942. Decatur County, which is small enough to dispense with the misdemeanor felony caseload distinctions, pays $82,000 to start for a deputy prosecutor. Delaware County, home of Ball State University, pays a felony DV crimes against women deputy or a general felony deputy between $85,000 and $95,000. Knox County, home of Vincennes University, pays a shocking amount, up to $125,000 for a caseload of about 200. Lawrence County pays a general deputy prosecuting attorney between $75,000 and $98,000. Marion County pays a major felony deputy starting at $76,500. For level 5, 6, and 7, 4, 5, and 6 felonies, which are the lower level felonies, Tippecanoe County pays between $78,928 and $92,551. In the interests of candor and transparency, I did find 3 counties who might pay less than Monroe County for felony work, and I'll tell you about those. Grant County pays a major felony deputy between $65,000 and $70,000 to start. Hancock County pays up to $80,000 for a general deputy. And Vigo County pays between $66,222 and $75,493 for a major felony deputy. Just wanted to make sure I didn't leave that out. I know that the council is considering an 8.5% cost of living adjustment. And I do think it is appropriate to consider that cost of living adjustment across the board for my staff. But for my attorney specifically, that would be roughly a $5,000 to $5,700 raise, depending on which caseload they're assigned to. That figure does not achieve competitive salaries for my deputies. COLA is meant to keep up with inflation. It's not intended, nor will it improve recruitment and retention of employees. It is likely that many of these counties that are already paying significantly more than we are for deputy prosecutors are currently talking to their county councils about cost of living adjustments. So we're just going to get further behind. When I suggested increasing the hours worked to 40 hours, I was actually taking my cues from the county attorney's office. The county attorneys are paid roughly $10,000 more than one of my felony deputy prosecutors, and that is as a result of the 40-hour work week. I want to be clear that I'm not particular about how we raise the salaries, whether it's at 35 hours or 40 hours. It's just important to me that we show our deputy prosecutors that they are valued for the work that they do. I do want to mention my non-attorney support staff. I would be doing a disservice if I did not mention that our legal secretaries, investigators, case managers, victim assistants, diversion directors, and other support staff are integral to the services that we provide to Monroe County, and they are very deserving of a cost of living adjustment in their salaries. The digital world has impacted their caseloads and their lives with additional steps and responsibilities in every single case that we file. They are often having to adapt to the changing needs of different departments, such as the courts and the clerk's office, as well as manage tasks that are assigned from their deputy prosecuting attorneys. As you know, inflation makes everything more difficult to afford, and they need support that makes ends meet. So respectfully, I am requesting that each of our deputy prosecuting attorneys who are classified as SO Attorney A, B, and C receive at least a $10,000 increase in their base pay in 2024. As you know, this request was made in concert with the public defender's request. Please help me ensure that Monroe County's prosecutor's office can recruit and maintain talented people to do this work on behalf of our community. The only other significant item in our general fund is we did ask for a contract line of $10,000. This is to provide training to the Indiana University Law Enforcement Academy. We've been providing that training, probably at least a decade, I would say. It started under Chris Gall's administration. Unfortunately, our main teachers for that were Judge Jeff Bradley, who can no longer train law enforcement due to his new role, and the deputy who retired from our office last year. So we are wanting to use these contract dollars to hire that former deputy who retired to work part-time to help us with this academy. He has been, like I said, one of the main teachers of this program for over a decade. He does all the behind-the-scenes logistics, updating our presentations to make sure that they are in keeping with changes in the law, putting exams together and grading. He is a great teacher. He doesn't just teach at the Law Enforcement Academy, but he is a teacher at Indiana University, and he formerly taught at Ivy Tech. We also still call him pretty well unpaid for advice on juvenile delinquency cases, because he handled those cases for a million years, I think. And he just has so much institutional knowledge about Monroe County's juvenile justice system. The positives about teaching this law enforcement academy for Monroe County is that many of these cadets do stay local, and it's in our interest to have them properly trained on constitutional and criminal law. It makes our community safer, and it improves the protection of civil rights. It positively improves the working relationship between my office and one of our major police agencies in town. Teaching and fielding questions hones the skills of our attorneys as well. Chief Deputy Jeff Kerr participates in this training, First Deputy Chris Pierce, as well as some of our other deputy prosecutors, usually the specialties, DV, sex crimes. They will spend some time with these cadets. Answering those questions, they make us study, they make us better prosecutors. These cadets are IU employees, so some of their work is already being referred to our office. And I just think it's an important program for our local justice. So those are the major changes. I think everything else is pretty well the same. I know that was a long presentation, but I am prepared to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. That covered a lot.
I'm sorry.
No.
Sorry.
Don't be sorry. It's a lot to take in. Council questions to my left. Councilor Iverson.
Well, first of all, I have to say that your presentation tonight is a good indication of what it is to be one of your liaisons. You do a lot, and our meetings with you really underscore that. So thank you for such an in-depth presentation. I do think it helps. I also wanted to point out, I've also been on the IPAC website today, and in addition to the information you presented, there are, as of today, the 13th, there are 24 counties that are looking for people at the same time we're looking for people. So it's not just an issue of pay, but it's also an issue of just intense competition for the same amount of people. And I think it underscores the issue that we have statewide. The IPAC it is so out front with its salaries. It's really interesting to be on that website and just to see how transparent everything is. So I want to hear kind of what my colleagues have to say about the conversation we had last night and how it applies today. But just reviewing kind of what other counties are doing makes, at least to my mind, an update to 40 hours make a lot of sense in the way that it brings up some of these salaries to what, quite frankly, to kind of the minimum of what some of these other places are paying their folks. So I know we've also received information that from your office of different analyses that IPAC has done on the issue, and it's a tough nut to crack. This is indeed a statewide issue, as you pointed out, and that's kind of, I don't have a question, but rather my thinking is along these lines, and just how difficult this situation is that, you pointed out, we do a COLA increase, and so is everyone else. And we're back at square one with trying to get some help for you, so.
Yeah, Indiana Prosecuting Attorneys Council last year, or maybe it was the Indiana Association of Prosecutors, which is the non-governmental agency that represents prosecutors, advocated to the Indiana General Assembly to try to increase state funding for prosecutors. But unfortunately, the interest, it failed. But it's because my colleagues are also suffering staffing issues. There's just a dearth of people who are willing to do this kind of work in this environment. So it is true that we're all fighting over a very limited pool of applicants.
Yeah.
Councilor Deckard.
Thank you very much. I also serve as a liaison, and for, of course, the deputy prosecutors watching at home, if there are any, I hope that they're not, but I suspect there might be some that later watch. I just want to point out that both the prosecutor and Ms. Hamlin have been talking about this issue throughout the year. Yes. This is not just to show up at budget and talk about this. And I appreciate that. I'm no longer a liaison to the public defender's office, so I've not been over in those conversations, but I know in the conversations we've had, we've talked about all the attorneys and trying to figure this out. And as I said last night, I'm reading the goal on this is a goal that we have similar to many county employees. In fact, all of the county employees, and that is to find revenue for substantial increases that make the pay worthwhile here and the value worthwhile. And I think that that's a challenge we're trying to figure out. So I hear what you're saying, and I appreciate all that you've said over the year. While we're also, you gave us a lot of great biographical information on what is going on in the life of day-to-day for both you and your deputy prosecutors and your staff. While you're here, I wanted to mention just the congratulations on an award that you are being recognized for later this week. For folks watching and maybe don't know, and I hope I'm not going to get in trouble at the O'Neill School, but they don't sign my paycheck, so that's okay. Our prosecutor has been recognized with the Krause Award for Public Policy Innovation. And just to give you an idea what that means, this is presented to individuals or organizations such as our prosecutor for applied research and related activities that help the state of Indiana or her communities with real world solutions. It's got 3 goals of the award: to recognize translational public policy research and activities, to enhance the work of the IU Public Policy Institute, to honor the lifetime work of John Krause, for which the award is named. And our prosecutor is going to be celebrated at the O'Neill School for this. And for those of us that have had this beat as liaisons, we know there's always something going on over there. I've been in that office, and you've had equipment in the office that has come from grants that you're all figuring out. And you've dealt with the Lake County prosecutor, and I don't know that everybody gets a meeting with the Lake County prosecutor. And so I want to point this out, that this is a good thing for us. It's a good thing for those tough moments. And as we figure out our deliberations, I appreciate that work, and I wanted to recognize that here. And if I get in trouble with O'Neill, let's all act like it didn't happen, and we'll move on down the road. So
well,
thank you.
I really appreciate that, and I think O'Neill got scooped by the Indiana lawyer already, so it's okay. But I want to say that there's no way I could have gotten that award without the council's initial investment in our pilot project. So it really took your faith in the project and your belief that it was valuable work to get us off the ground on that. So thank you for that investment.
Other questions? Councilor Iverson?
About the Professor Grauman work that you all have been working on, what phase is that in right now with the research study that we funded? Is that still going on, or is it?
So the research that you initially funded, the pilot project, is complete. As you may recall, we did receive some information that we could apply for an Arnold Ventures grant.
Yeah.
And then we did receive an award of, I want to say, $400,000 to expand the work. And that's when we partnered with the Lake County Prosecutor's Office and the Monroe County branch NAACP to expand this research, bring in community partners to have input on the research. And it's a 3-year project. There are several goals. One is to create policy, but further to have a better data collection and analysis system so that we can also gauge the efficacy of policy change. We are also working with folks at the Indiana University to develop a dashboard, a public-facing dashboard with some of our statistics on demographics and the levels of offenses and those different kinds of things. So that, like I said, it's a 3-year project. We've already had one community conversation where we invited anybody who was interested in attending to come and discuss some issues we specifically focused on that community conversation on some of the mental health challenges that we have. And it was a really interesting, informative conversation that we had with some members of the public. We do intend to have another community conversation, hopefully in October, but we don't have a solid date for that. We're also working on focus groups to capture perceptions of racial and ethnic disparities in the criminal justice system and where people think they're coming from and those kinds of things. It's a big undertaking, but it's really been interesting, and you know, it's like anything. It seemed like a good idea when we started writing the draft and we started getting involved in it. It is a big project. It takes a lot of focus and work, but I'm learning that it's very unique nationally because most of this research is being done in large metropolitan areas like Chicago, New York, you know, those big places. And we're kind of showing that it can be done in a smaller jurisdiction. Bringing Lake County on board is, I think, going to help us leverage this, like, kind of show to the state of Indiana that this is valuable work, hopefully. But also we are, I think, one of the only research groups that's brought in community partners. So that's made us unique as well. So it's a big undertaking. I can share our initial study report with you. It was my hope to put together a responsive memorandum from my office about what we intend to do with the data before we did a big splash release. But as you may have heard, I've been busy for the last year.
Well, and we like to break news at the county council, so.
Yeah. So, but I certainly am willing to share that with the council.
Great. It's just a really exciting project, and Arnold Ventures doesn't fund just anybody. They're really hard to get grants out of, so yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you. Other questions or comments on this budget?
Well, I guess, I mean, last night when we considered the public defender's budget, I think we sort of came to an agreement to consider all of the attorneys' salaries sort of separately, to pull them together in a spreadsheet. And I think actually and I haven't heard anything tonight that would change, at least my view, that that's still the way I'd like to go. Do we have copies of all of the salary data that you've gathered? Because that is helpful from other counties.
I have my handwritten notes about that, but I'm happy to get that in a less messy format for you.
Would you mind sending that to the council office? Thank
I
you.
will.
That actually would be very useful. Thank you.
The comment I was going to make based off of what Councilor McKim said, and I meant to say this, but I got caught up on what I was saying, is that while we are figuring out what we have to figure out, I agree that we need to be consistent with what we did last night as we continue to work on that, with the message being to folks out there that we are trying to figure this out as best we can, limited by what we have, and as we move forward on this. One other additional thing that I think it would be helpful for us to know and to figure out is, kind of having observed the legal community, although not definitely a part of it, is I think sometimes we've had a belief, false, correct, or otherwise, that we will always be able to recruit from this law school, literally, a quarter of a mile down the way, that we will always be able to successfully recruit directly from that into our system. I'm not sure how true that ever was from the graduates, but I think we believed it was. I think that may have changed significantly. And if that is the case, I think that means that all this becomes something that we're consistently and continuously working on. And again, I'm not sure if that's correct or not, but I think that was our hunch.
I think most of our deputy prosecutors are Mauer grads. My newest future deputy who just passed the bar is a Mauer grad. But I don't think that staying local is the obvious choice for IU grads anymore.
Yeah.
As Mr. Hunt mentioned last night, I have been engaged in recruitment activities at the law school, giving my time to go present to law students and promoting the value of prosecution and public defense. I didn't just selfishly go for prosecution only.
Ms. King.
And previously, the Public Defender's Office provided an article that talks about the amount of law school students and where they end up in practice, and I'm happy to resend that. I would pull it up now, but my email has died.
Sure. That'd be wonderful.
Yes.
I guess in terms of what we were just talking about with the Councilmember McKim was saying, I think we're thinking about all three sections under that lawyer category, A, B, and C, correct?
Yeah, I thought the idea was to look at all
The
the
whole
attorneys,
grid.
including the county attorney positions, and compare, because we've got the situation, we have 3 different classifications. We've got some 40 hours, some 35 hours. And yeah, it's.
So basically changing the grid as opposed to looking at positions and departments. Is that what you're saying?
I think any solutions are
Okay.
open for
TBD.
discussion.
Okay. Counselor Hawk.
Yes, as we're preparing the information, I think we should make sure that we're comparing if the other counties are saying 35 hours or 40 hours, so that we make sure that we know if we're offering the same thing, it seems to me. And also, I would think the surrounding counties might really be of interest, because that means if someone's already settled, maybe have a partner that lives here, it doesn't take much to drive a few miles for a lot more money. So I would think, just like when we were looking at our law enforcement officers and the jail officers,
surrounding.
we know that if they could just drive one direction or the other and make thousands more, everybody has to take care of their own special needs. So let's concentrate on that, at least give that consideration.
Yeah, and some of your data was from surrounding.
Yeah, Lawrence County and Morgan County both pay, they have jobs posted that pay more than what we pay. Though Bartholomew County doesn't have any jobs posted, they offered one of my felony prosecutors a misdemeanor job for $91,000 a year. So there are nearby counties that are paying significantly more.
I thought I heard her mention higher price tag than what we have here on any of them, so.
Okay. Oh, no, you go ahead.
I was going to lay out what we did last night and ask if we were doing the same.
Okay, yeah, I was just going to make the motion. Council, I move we set all of the attorney positions back to 35 hours.
Second.
And further discussion on the motion? Okay, could we
Can I ask a
have?
quick question?
Oh, yeah, of course.
There are a couple of positions that have since moved, different people into them. When you move it back to 35, should I be concerned about that? For instance, one was to be paid next year at a first year level, or, the level 1.
I'm gonna go, like I did with the public defender, I'm gonna go through, make changes, I'm gonna have you edit it. Perfect. Make sure, and then if we need to make those tweaks, it'll show up then, okay?
Thanks.
In that case, could we have a roll call vote, please, on the motion to change those lines from 40 to 35 hours?
Yes, Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Crossley,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz.
Yes,
Motion passed unanimous.
thank you. So, we still have the overall budget. Are there other questions about the general fund prosecutor's budget? Yes.
On the contractual line, you're talking about the LE Education IU, and you mentioned that right now you're only working with one law enforcement agency. Are you going to eventually expand to other law enforcement agencies, or did I misunderstand you?
So IU has its own law enforcement academy, and that's where we're teaching. The other law enforcement agencies do not have those academies, although they do often hire graduates from this law enforcement academy. We do provide training to the Sheriff's Office, Ellettsville Police Department, State Police, and the Bloomington Police Department, in addition to Indiana University. It's just not as intensive as the academy.
I understand. That's a good clarification. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions or comments? Could we please have the roll call vote on the full general fund budget request?
Counselor Hawk?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor McKim?
Yes.
Counselor Munson? Counselor Munson?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Counselor Crossley?
Yes.
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous. And I want to say that when I do make those changes, I also edit the FICA and the perf. So,
thank you.
Okay.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1000-0660 General Fund Child Support with category requests of in personnel, $1,302,879. In supplies, $4,000. In services, $45,800. For a total of $1,352,679.
Second.
I hope you won't be disappointed to hear that there are no changes other than the salary steps to this budget.
Okay. Well, that's not super exciting, but appreciated. Are there any questions or comments on this one? Yes?
Well, yeah, so I guess my question is then about the 40 hours. You do have 4 attorneys that were moved to 40 hours, right?
We did not do that for the child support deputies. We only did that for the criminal division deputies.
Okay, I was going to say, yeah, some of the numbers showed 0 change. The notes say increased to 40 hours, but some of the...
That was my mistake. I just assumed they all were.
Okay.
So.
The child support deputies were happy to stay at 35 hours, so we didn't change that.
Oh. Go ahead.
Do we still get the same Title IV-D reimbursement that we always have?
We do.
That has
Which is like close to 67%? Not
Yeah, it's
sort
a
of.
weird formula, but it's somewhere a little over 67%.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions about this budget? In that case, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Counselor Munson?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Counselor Crossley?
Yes.
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Counselor Hawk?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor McKim?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Thank you. 9C?
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1155-0000 extradition with category requests of in personnel, $538, and a total of the same.
Second.
Okay, this is a pretty simple budget. It's used for if we have to pay like a share of overtime to go collect somebody from another jurisdiction, things like that. We don't use it often. The cash balance we have is $1,535.06. We had no revenue in 2023 so far. We had $50 in 2020 and $1,000 in 2021, but no revenue in 2020. So it's not a huge fund, but we do have it there for when we need it for extraditions.
And where does the revenue come in this one?
I'm sorry?
How does the revenue come?
Usually it's in the form of restitution payments, so we often ask the court to ask the defendants to reimburse those funds that get expended for extradition.
Okay. Questions? Comments? Questions? Okay, seeing them, could we have a roll call vote on moving this budget forward?
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Counselor Crossley?
Yes.
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Counselor Hawk?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor McKim?
Yes.
Counselor Munson?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1170-0009 Public Safety Lit Prosecutor with a category request of in personnel, pardon me, in personnel.
It responds to that.
It's
If
the
you
only,
ask it
that's the
nicely.
only person that responds to me. In personnel for this motion, it should be $130,854 and a total of the exact same amount.
Second.
Okay, so this is, as you may know, our STOP grant pays for half of the salary of our deputy prosecutors who handle domestic violence, felonies, and sex crimes. I believe this probably does include the 35-hour adjustment, or to 40 hours.
It does. For these two positions, I included it at 40 hours. So if you want to handle that the same.
But this basically pays for the portion of those positions that are not funded by the STOP grant, as well as the FICA perf, health, dental, and life, those kinds of things.
Do we want to, go ahead.
So is that 50%?
I believe the salary is 50%. We can't, because we're self-insured, we can't pay that out of the grant. It's just, it doesn't
Just
comply with
the
the
health,
rules.
dental,
Yeah.
life, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We do get 50% on the FICA and the perf.
Council, I move we amend the budget to set the attorneys back to 35 hours.
Second.
Michelle, when you put together all this data, can you make sure you include these, but include that they're 50% of the salary? Thanks.
Did you have a comment on this? Because now we haven't.
Finish that motion,
Okay.
and then I do have a comment on.
Okay, great. When you're ready, could we have a roll call vote on this motion?
Counselor Crossley,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Okay, Counselor Hawk?
Yes. I think it might
Can you
not come
try?
as any surprise. Am I turned on? Yeah.
It's got to get
Got to
closer.
get closer, I guess.
Just talk closer to the mic.
It might not come as any surprise for those of you who've been here for a while that I was not in favor of putting these positions in the public safety lit. I know that we've done a lot of moving around of dollars, but there's reasons why that public safety lit should be saved, in my opinion, for law enforcement, to cover the law enforcement, to cover the jail. And we know those expenses are going to go way up. That doesn't mean I don't support your mission or having these positions, but I think that the county council needs to take responsibility of some sort and put it back where it belongs, in the general fund, or if you have grants to cover it. But I do not believe it belongs in public safety lit.
Okay. Other comments? Yes.
I mean, I don't necessarily want to get into
Yeah.
a debate on that.
Right.
I guess I disagree. I feel like it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
It won't be soon.
Well,
It won't be soon.
sorry.
Why? I mean, it's still.
Well, I mean, I guess there's all kinds of new taxes you guys can put down for the rest of the jail or whatever. I'm just saying. Whatever. I have the right to my opinion. You guys
Brian and
just vote
I have the
however.
right to rebut it as well.
For what it's worth, I am the chief law enforcement officer in Monroe County. I do carry a badge and have those credentials, as well as my deputy prosecutors. We just don't look like the police to arrest people.
So there. It's just surprising to me that those numbers add up, but they did. Never mind. Had a little math thing going on in my head. Any other questions? Comments? And all right, then could we do, and we do not, sorry, we don't have a motion on changing this one.
Yeah, we do.
We already did.
And you already voted.
Sorry, it's that time of night. I'm starting to lose it.
I feel you.
I overstayed my welcome. I apologize.
Could we have the roll call vote then on moving forward with the Public Safety Lit Fund budget request?
Counselor Crossley?
Yes.
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Counselor Hawk?
No.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor McKim?
Yes.
Counselor Munson?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-1.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 2503-0000 diversion fees with category requests of in personnel, $134,365, in the supplies category, $100, in the services category, $650, and in the capital category, $500, for a total of $135,615.
Second.
Okay. Do you have any comments on this one before?
There aren't any major changes. As you know, this is our user fee fund for our diversion program. It has been dwindling over the years as we've paid various things out of it. The biggest things we do pay are actually the directors of the programs, the infraction diversion program and the pretrial diversion program. In 2023, our beginning fund balance was $31,954.29. We do project that we will end positive with a $5,237 increase in that balance. So we are generating some more diversion funds, but it's still one of those things that can be a very tight budget, and we're just trying not to increase the expenses out of it.
Okay, thank you. Are there questions or comments on this one? Councilor McKim.
I just want to comment. This is one of those budgets that Ms. Hamlin and I have argued over or fought over for decades even. It's good that it's now in a state where it can at least sustain itself, is neither really growing nor shrinking. So that's good to hear.
I was getting ready for juicy details of the fight.
Just watch past county budget hearings.
Oh, I could tell you stories.
All right. Other comments or questions on this one? Did you say that the operating balance was 500,000?
No. The operating balance, the cash balance in the fund is right around 37,000.
Okay.
So
All right.
It'll increase.
It'll increase about $5,000. I'm projecting.
Okay.
To the end of the
So
year.
it's right. Oh, yeah.
It's
That's great. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Then I keep not seeing Ms. Munson, sorry. There we go. Then could we please have a roll call vote on moving forward with the prosecutor's diversion fees fund budget request?
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Counselor Hawk?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor McKim?
Yes.
Counselor Munson?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Counselor Crossley?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
And that concludes your budget review.
Thank you. Well,
Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, it includes this session, this review of your budgets. How's that?
I greatly appreciate your time and patience.
Yeah,
listening
thank you.
to my presentation.
Thanks, Beth.
We are now at item 10, which is our auditor. And Ms. Bree Gregory will be presenting the auditor's budget. Would you like to do it from where you are? Just as long as you got the mic, it doesn't matter to me where you
Depends on the
sit.
working microphone.
If your mic is good,
That's true. That is very true.
it works.
I have to go to Pittsburgh to find one.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah, that's fine. Thanks. And just, I'm not sure if everybody was told, but Auditor Smith couldn't be here this evening because of a family matter. So but she did talk to me earlier today.
Okay.
Let me do your motion.
Oh, there we go.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1000-0002 General Fund Auditor with category requests of, in personnel, $1,107,467. In services, $179,000 for a total of $1,286,467.
Second.
Okay, well, the general fund budget is completely flat with the exception of personnel fluctuation. We do want to reduce our contractual line by $50,000, bringing that line to $125,000. We're going to supplement in the auditors and eligible, which we'll get to later. And then there were very minimal increases. Other than that, I'm looking, there's barely anything really. Yeah, the postage line went up because we ran out this year, so that's just what is needed. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Council, I move we set line 30006 contractual to $125,000.
Second.
Any questions about that reduction?
Just thank you and thank the auditor for that.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that very much. Could we have a roll call vote when you're ready?
Counselor Hawk?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor McKim?
Yes.
Counselor Munson?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Counselor Crossley?
Yes.
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Thank you. Are there other questions on this budget overall? I didn't hear what you said. Did you say that postage increased because you ran out and, yeah?
It did. We didn't budget quite enough, so we're raising that just to avoid coming back for an additional.
Sure thing, okay. Comments or questions? Oh, all right, then could we please have a roll call vote on moving forward with the auditor's general fund budget?
Counselor Crossley?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Counselor Hawk?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor Munson?
Yes.
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Counselor McKim?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1181-0000 Plat Book with category requests of, in personnel, $39,893, in supplies, $500, in services, $2,000, for a total of $42,393.
Second.
Okay, plat book. As you know, this fund is supported by property transfer fees. So for 2023, we ran into a bit of an issue where we could not fully support our GIS representative from this fund. So for 2024, we're proposing half the salary out of plat book and the other half out of auditors and eligible. We're confident that there will be enough revenue to support half that salary. And other than that, it's pretty simple budget. So let me know if there are questions, please.
Questions at all? Okay. It does make sense to me. So let's have a roll call vote, please, on the budget request for the plat book fund.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Counselor Hawk?
Yes.
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor Crossley?
Yes.
Counselor Munson?
Yes.
Counselor McKim?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Okay. Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1216-0000 Auditors Ineligible with category requests of, in personnel, $91,483, In supplies, $20,500. And in the services category, $192,250 for a total of pardon me, I'm going to restate that, for a total of $304,233.
Second.
Okay. Auditors and eligible deductions is a fund supported by illegal deductions. So we contract out a service where a company assists with finding duplicate deductions that, somebody might have 2 homestead deductions, for example. So anyway, we pay that company a portion of every dollar, and we retain the remaining, we being the auditor's office. Anyhow, this is where the other half of the GIS salary is budgeted. And this is also where we're funding the TIF neutralization. We do that in office. And then this is also where we would like to relocate that $50,000 removed from the general fund. So I'd like to increase the contractual line from $175,000 to $225,000.
Council, I move we set line 30006 contractual to $225,000.
Second.
Any questions on that motion? When you're ready, we can have a roll call vote then. I'm sorry, did you have it? Wait a second.
I had a quick question.
Sure.
I did try to reach you earlier today. Missed everybody, I think. On line 17024, I was able to find out what that's for, but I see a $400 increase. Is this for the one position? Because it went from 6,600 to 7,000. So is that an increase for that one position doing that work?
It's not an increase for the position, but for TIF neutralization occurs like per parcel. So there are more parcels involved, is my understanding. I apologize, this is done on the property side of my office, so I'm not completely involved, but there is an increase, and this $400 supports that increase.
And I was just trying to see if it needed to be broken down. In my mind, is this like several different people?
If there's one employee
whatever. Anyway,
does this, it's contracted
I'm
to
sure that get more information on this.
So the money is not paying a person, or it is?
We contract one of our employees that does this outside of office work.
Oh.
So otherwise, we would be paying another company, and it's
sure
much more expensive.
I believe you. I see. And the amount of work is increasing.
Correct.
Got it. Let's go ahead and
And I did check the salary ordinance. I mean, this amount that we pay for this purpose is in the salary ordinance. And I remember when we had the debate a couple years ago when we first added it.
Okay. My memory was just short, so I was trying to contact everybody. Tell me what this is about.
Yeah. Thanks. And I did see that I missed a call. Marty, I apologize. I can try to touch base tomorrow.
Okay. I talked to Kathy.
Let's go ahead and vote on the motion to increase the contractual.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Wait.
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Counselor Crossley?
Yes.
Counselor McKim?
Yes.
Counselor Munson?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Counselor Hawk?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Are there any? I'm sorry.
No, I just have to laugh. This is just how tired I am. Before, when I made that motion, instead of saying, council, I move, I almost said, hey Siri, I move. And now I set off everybody's phone.
Alexa, are there any more questions? Could we have a roll call vote on the auditor's ineligible budget fund request?
Counselor McKim?
Yes.
Counselor Crossley?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor Hawk?
Yes.
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Counselor Munson?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Thank you. That concludes the auditor's budget review, and that is our last agenda item for tonight. So I will recess our meeting until tomorrow, Thursday, September 14th, here in the Nat U Hill Room at 5 p.m. Thank you.